Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 3 of Psychology 1105. So, what I'm going to do right now is just go through your week 3 content. You can see here that I've just got a couple things running in the background. All right, here we are. So for today, what I'm going to do is your week 3 checklist, just go through some of the content that you're going to be responsible for this week. And of course, I'm also going to talk a little bit about your first online test, which will start this coming Wednesday. So this week is the last week of new material that you need to cover for the first unit for our class. So congratulations, you are almost a third of the way done the class. The content for this week that we are going to be looking at is of course located on the home page of our FOL on the left side under the checklists, under the announcements. So the PowerPoint slides are posted for you in FOL. And this week we are looking at chapters 5 and 6, which are understanding individuals within their environments. And in addition to that, we are also talking about understanding the key concepts of community. So some really great topics there. The other thing that I wanted to draw your attention to for this week, I'm just going to pop back to the week 2 checklist here. So of course we have the video tutorials that go through all of the weekly content for the class. So again, what that does is it explains the material in kind of like a more class setting like we're doing right here. You also have your participation exercise that's due the following Monday by 8 a.m. in the assignment Dropbox. Now again, the assignments that are due for the participation exercises, if we just hop back to our home page. Now again, I would hope by now that everyone's very familiar with this document right here, the syllabus. The syllabus goes through all of your major project descriptions, one of which is a weekly participation exercise. So in addition to your tests and your final essay, so you've got these online discussions, which we do 1 per unit. So you've just completed your first online discussion, which I'll talk a little bit about in a moment. In addition to that, of course, you have your weekly participation exercises, which are very short reflection exercises that I ask the students to do just to, reflect a little bit on the weekly material that we've talked about in class that week. The weekly participation exercises are marked on a pass-fail basis. Basically, if you do them, if you take it seriously, if the requirements are met, you should get the mark. It is a very easy 15% of your final grade. So just make sure that you're staying on top of these weekly participation exercises because they are averaged over the 7 weeks of the course. And again, they're worth 15% of your final grade. So that means that they're worth about 2% each. They do add up and they do make a nice little difference on your final grade if they are fully completed. So again, just make sure that you're staying on top of those. I will just quickly address the online discussion. So of course, you guys did your first online discussion this past week on the ecological levels of analysis, and then using those ecological levels to try to describe what you think is the most important factor that contributes to a social or psychological issue. I've been watching the discussion over the past week, and I would like to congratulate you all for just the integrity that you've all brought to this assignment. You are doing a fantastic job of critically analyzing very serious social and psychological issues. And I'm very proud of you all when I read these online discussions. So great job. You can expect to have your grade back from those. I always try to get my grades back within a week of the due date. So the discussions were due last Friday. So I'm going to try to have them all graded for you by this coming Friday. I am in training for 3 days this week, so I'm going to try to stick to my goal, but I'll keep you posted. Hopefully I'll have those graded for you by this coming Friday. At the most, they would be graded by the following week. So I'll keep you posted on that. But again, very well done to everybody on those. Now, your next discussion will be happening in week 4 of the class. So you'll be seeing that posted next week. And then the following week, or rather the third discussion, will be happening in week 6. So stay tuned for these. For these next 2 discussions, you're going to be watching some really thought-provoking documentaries and video clips that have to do with some very interesting social programs and documenting the issue of poverty in Canada. So really interesting stuff there. So stay tuned for that. All right. Now, that pretty much goes through the week 3 material. So we have talked about your chapters 5 and 6, the PowerPoints, the video tutorials, the participation exercise, and your first discussion exercise, which I will aim to have marked by this coming Friday, pending my training and how intense that is. The last thing that I'd like to talk about in your week 3 video tutorial is your first test. Oh my goodness, it's coming up. So the test information will be posted here under the announcements. You can access your test by going here into quizzes. Yours will look a little different than mine, so I'll just click mine into the student view so it's a little bit closer to what you will see when you open up the quiz. So this is what you'll see when you open up the quiz when it becomes available to you on Wednesday. So it will open this coming Wednesday, May 17th at 8 o'clock a.m. and you will have until the following Monday, May 22nd at 8 a.m. to finish it, to write it. So let's look at the instructions for the quiz. So again, I ask that my students, of course, read the instructions carefully before they start the quiz. Some of you may have done a quiz like this for another online class. So hopefully you're familiar with the format of the online quiz function in FOL. Basically, I'm just going to go through the important information that you need to know for the test and the structure of it, how to go about doing that. So the test is, of course, worth 20% of your final grade. You will see 40 multiple choice questions show up, and you will have 60 minutes to write the test and 1 attempt to write the test. So let's talk a little bit about what all of this means. Now, the 40 multiple choice questions will be drawn from a larger bank of questions. So what that means is that when one student sits down to write the test, their test questions will look a little different than somebody else's test questions. I randomized the test questions for a few different reasons, of course, to encourage students to work independently, right? Because this is an independent learning exercise for you to demonstrate your knowledge for the class so far. So please make sure that you are working independently, right? Your question 1 will look a little bit different than somebody else's question 1. So that's really important to keep in mind. The test questions are all similar in terms of difficulty level. So don't worry, I have tested and vetted the test questions very carefully to make sure that they are, of course, fair and that they are an accurate representation of the material that we have covered in Unit 1. All right, I hope that makes sense to everybody. If you have any questions or concerns about that, please do let me know. So your first test will cover the first 6 chapters of our course, the first unit of our course. So of course what that means is that you'll look at chapter 1 on community psychology, the introductory chapter. We'll also be looking at the history of community psychology. We have our week 2 material where we talked about research, right? The why and the how of how we do research in community psychology. And then of course we have our week 3 material on individuals and communities and communities themselves. So that's quite a bit of material to cover for your first test. Now, again, the test is technically open book, right? Because you're going to be doing it at home and you can have your material open with you as you're doing the test, but you will have a limited amount of time to write the test. So most of you will be receiving 60 minutes on the test, unless of course you have academic accommodations through the Fanshawe Accessibility Office, in which case if you receive perhaps time and a half on your test, you will receive that. Now, for those of you who do have academic accommodations, if you go in to start the test and find that it does not show the right amount of time, please just send me an email and let me know, and I will reset that for you. And in addition to the test being timed, you also will only receive 1 attempt to write the test. So what that means is that you need to use your time very carefully and wisely while the clock is ticking, while you're actually writing that test. I suggest very, very strongly, I encourage my students to study for this test like you would study for any other closed book test that you would write in the classroom. I do have students fail these tests even though they are open book, okay? So just to make sure that you are treating the test carefully and that you're preparing for it like you would another test. Because of course the last thing that you want to be doing while the clock is ticking, while you're writing one of these tests, is flipping through the textbook wildly and panicked, trying to look up information, right? You want to be as prepared as possible. So if you can do that for yourself, I think that you will find that you will be more successful in this assessment. So you will have from Wednesday, May the 17th at 8 a.m. until the following Monday, May the 22nd at 8 a.m. to write the test. So at this time, our second unit will be starting. So that's when the evaluation for our first unit will end. So you can write it on the weekend if you want. You can write it in an evening or a morning, whatever works for you, right? If you can carve out a good hour to yourself to write this test, throw a, sign up on your door that says, test in progress, do not disturb, because once you start the test, you cannot pause it. You must finish it in the same sitting. So that's a really important part. You cannot start and stop the test. So just make sure that you're being careful about that, about the time that you're setting aside to write the test. Now, once you've read through all this and you're ready to start the test, you're gonna scroll down and you will see a little button kind of down here in the bottom left-hand corner that says Start Test, I think, or Begin Quiz or something like that. So of course you'll start that, and then a little message will pop up in the center of the screen that says, do you really want to start the test? And you'll say, yes, I'd like to start the test. And it will bring you to the online quiz, which is very similar, right, to probably any other online quiz that you've completed. You select your answer, hit save for every single one of the answers just to make sure that your answer is saved. And of course, when you're finished the test, you're confident that you've completed it to the best of your ability, hit submit. Now, with these tests, it's really important. Don't leave any answers blank. Even if you don't know the answer, it's always best to guess, because then you still have a good chance of getting it right. All right, my friends. Well, that's where I'm going to leave you for now. That is your week 3 introduction. I really hope you're all enjoying the class. You're doing very good work. And again, as always, if you ever have any questions or concerns, please get in touch with me by email. I'm available in the A2003 office, and I'm happy to talk with anybody in person about the test or any of the other class content. All right, thanks guys.